Mas pangit yata ako sa kabila. Ayun mga kameta, wait lang. Harsh masyado. Malakas masyado yung light dito Grabe, araw pa dito. So habol natin dito mga kameta. Habang may konting oras tayo dito. Bago mag-next meeting. Okay. Kamusta guys? Ito live na tayo once again. Ayan na, kamusta kayo dyan mga ka-Mets, mga ka-Haydarian, yan. Of course, eto na, officially mga ka-Haydarian, ito, number 1 na tayong political podcast sa bayan and top 10 tayo sa mga news and politically related news sa lahat ng mga podcasts sa Pilipinas. In fact, interestingly, nasa top 200 tayo of all podcasts, at least on Spotify, and even dito sa Singapore, nasa top 100 tayo when it comes to political and news-related podcasts. If I'm not mistaken, malapit din tayo mag-top 100 sa United Arab Emirates, among others. So, sobrang, I feel privileged. Thank you so much dun sa mga suporta nyo. Thank you so much dun sa mga sumasali sa atin. Yan, from Hong Kong, si Gail. Yung mga ating mga ibang kapatid dyan, galing sa Estados Unidos, gitnang silangan, galing sa Europa. We hope to make sure na, dahil especially dun sa malaking mga audience natin all around the world, especially mga FWs na ating kapatid, we're hoping to make sure na sa maraming bansa at least top 100 tayo, no? Pero sa Pilipinas, ito na, numero 1, number 1 po tayo. By chance na kanina, haba ng conversation, kita nyo medyo pagod tayo, early morning pa lang, tuloy-tuloy itong mga conversations namin dito. May malaki kaming forum dito na medyo may mga big time na tao doon. So talking about, alam mo na, yung trabaho talaga natin, geopolitics. So we had this long conversation, and habang may mga breaks and all, nag-check lang ako dito sa Singapore. I was just looking, there's this kind of website that gives you a ranking of your performance in terms of your podcast performance. At yun, boom, by chance lang, I just went through it, and the next thing I know is like, wow, okay. So all podcasts, top 200 tayo sa Spotify. In the world, among the highest podcast tayo in terms of political podcast. Pero sa Pilipinas, number 1 tayo mga kameta. So, very, very happy about that. Feel very privileged. Pinaghirapan natin yan mga kameta. Pinaghirapan natin yan. And of course, now I feel natutuwa ako kasi yung ating cousin. Shoutout dyan sa cousin natin, Anton Abriol. In the house, salamat. Tumutulong na rin sa atin yan para sa dun sa ating mga shorts na ginagawa natin. So I posted some of the samples of the shorts we're doing dyan sa Twitter, dyan sa Instagram natin. So kindly check those ones. We'll hope to also post them sa TikTok natin. Hindi ko dala yung TikTok natin. So, but we're hoping to get the ball rolling, no? Not to mention, of course, shout out also kay Senator Raffy Tulfo. Yan, yung tinatawag na Idol Raffy yan. Salamat din sa kanya dun sa ating interview. So, abangan yan, yung interview namin with Senator Raffy Tulfo. Marami tayong napag-usapan about different issues, yung kanyang mga advocacies, yung relationship niya with other senators, including of course yung favorite niya si Cynthia Villar, Senator Cynthia Villar, mga others. So marami tayong pinag-usapan dyan. Of course, shoutout dyan sa mga kaibigan natin joining also from other ASEAN countries, Jakarta among others. Salamat Sir Reggie for joining us. Now, so again, I just want to say how thankful I am dun sa inyong suporta, and don't worry mga kameta, we're gonna have more and more discussions, more and more collaboration, God willing, at likely late tonight. We'll hope to have an R&R. Okay, medyo busy rin si ka Ronald Liamas natin. So we'll try to catch up on that. But again, thank you so much mga kameta. You can see dito sa iBags natin, dun sa magulong room sa likod natin na medyo busy yung schedule natin. But we'll try our best to keep this momentum and to get you high quality discussions. Of course, editing and all, there's a lot I can work on. I know, we're unti-unti natin inaayos yan, mga studio productions, etc. So, alam naman, hindi naman mura yan. Medyo may gastos and all of that. So, I had to make sure na before I jump into proper editing and making shorts and getting people to help us, we have the threshold, minimum threshold. So, medyo halfway na tayo dun sa makuha natin yung mga kailangan natin sa YouTube. So, more than 50,000 followers na tayo sa YouTube. We were just 5,000 followers just the other year because, I was barely posting. So, within a year or so, we went from 5,000 to 50,000. So, hopefully, we can push in the coming months to 100,000 para makuha natin yung verification and all of that. And obviously, on other platforms, hundreds of thousands na tayo sa Facebook, among others. And we hope to, next thing na gusto ko i-focus talaga yung TikTok, especially with the shorts and all of that. So, I haven't been as active on TikTok, but our hope is to push more aggressively. Para naman sa TikTok, we can reach dun sa mga ka-Gen Z ko, mga ka-Alpha generation, ka-Gen Z generation natin. So, we want to also work on all of those things. I mean, the purpose here, mga kameta, is, ano ba naman yun? Pa-raffle. Huwag naman kayo ganyan, mga kameta. Pag raffle lang, imekos-mekos na lang yan, talo na tayo. E di kung gusto ko idaan na lang sa mga edi mekos-mekos na tayo, tapos na ang usapan. Alam niyo naman, pagkantsawan, kayang-kaya ko yan. Pero we want to make sure that you're watching us because you believe in what we do. You're watching us because natutuwa kayo sa analysis natin. I hope you're watching us because you want to improve your, state of mind, to learn a thing or two about things, no? Dahil, of course, pinaghirapan natin yung mga ginagawa natin, pinag-aaralan natin, we look at many sources, we talk to the leading thinkers, yun ang ginagawa natin. So I hope you appreciate it. Let's see, mamaya, maybe we'll go a little bit of raffle, medyo magandang shirts and all. Pero kailangan natin, unti-unti, wait lang, okay? Just don't put too much pressure on me. Ang dami ko pang ibang ginagawa, right? So let me slowly build on that. But now, honestly, I feel I mean, I'm so grateful to God because now finally I feel among others na legitimate podcaster na tayo. Just no monetization, nothing dun sa podcasts natin and all. As you can see, there's no commercials, no sponsors whatsoever. Go lang ng go. Whenever may konting time, upload. Kung matino yung internet, go. And next yun na, ito, number 1 na tayo sa political podcast sa Pilipinas. But of course, we want to be number 1 in Asia at the very least, no? In the near future. And God willing, we want to be at least among top 5 in the world, right? If not top 10 in the world, political podcast. So top 200 tayo sa lahat ng podcast sa Pilipinas. Top 100 tayo sa mga political podcasts in other countries including Singapore. Number 1 na tayo sa Pilipinas. And if you go to Spotify, if you look at the popular political and news, medyo yung level natin, di ba? Kasama na natin yung mga New York Times, kasama na natin yung mga Vox. So again, I'm super thankful mga kameta for supporting us dahil kahit walang edit, ang sagwa, walang transitions, walang intro, walang entro, walang mitro. Alam ko yan because I work also in GMA and now I'm working TV5 One News. So nakita ko yung matinong, di ba? I mean, properly edited and done, right? So unfortunately, we're not there yet. But down the road, hopefully we can get some folks to help us with proper editing and all. But in content, I'm very proud of the content. We got the best minds on politics, not only in the Philippines, but perhaps beyond the Philippines as our guests, right? And alam mo naman mga kameta, we're always here to be world class, right? We're always here to be world class. And yung mga views na I share all around the world, yung mga views na I share here, in Singapore, in Europe, in US, in Japan, among others. This is also what I'm sharing to you guys. Now, kung hindi niyo ma-appreciate yan, problema niya na may mga nag-troll sa atin. Alam mo yung mga bobo na, kayo hanggang lang kayo, citation lang kayo, scholar. I mean, you know who asks people like me about our views, alright? People at the highest levels, alright? Okay? I don't want to name drop and all of that, but I'm just telling you, diba? Yung mga top policy makers, sa tingin ng sino binabasa nila, hindi nila binabasa yung mga, diba, vloggers na Marlica and all of that. Ewan kay Ronald Llamas, baka si Marlica ang gusto niya. No, they're gonna read people who are published in legit publications, right? Alam niya na. Okay. Sorry guys. No, but you get what I'm saying. I hate that kind of bobo, smart shaming kind of culture. Let's call it out for what it is. It's bobo. Alright? At alam ko naman, hindi naman tayo bobo, di ba? I know we can do better than that. Kaya everything I'm doing here is to level it up and to make political analysis, proper geopolitical analysis, proper socioeconomic analysis more palatable. Alright? So, wag natin i-dumb down yung proper analysis. Wag natin, hanggang libro lang yan. Excuse me, okay? Just to be clear, alright, mga kameta? In all of these years na I've been fighting for the West Philippine Sea on major issues, I've been trolled right and left at the highest levels multiple times throughout the years. Alright? So, if you want to talk about duwag and cowardice, duwag yung mga anonymous at duwag yung mga ibang bloggers dyan na, they don't want to stand by, you get what I'm saying, right? Okay, alright? You don't know the amount of risk and stress that people like us go through because we stand for the West Philippine Sea, we stand for our interests in the Philippines. And speaking of duwag, I mean, I'm probably one of the very few guys out there who has criticized both the United States and China. Equal opportunity. I'm not saying they both are equal, especially as a Filipino. I would say now one is definitely a threat to us in West Philippine Sea. The other one had historical injustices and problems in the Philippines, no question about. But they're not morally equivalent. Nevertheless, I've called out the wars of Trump administration. I've called out the wars of China here and there. But at the same time, we talked about also engagement and all of that. That's why mga kameta, that's why we get interviewed from, CGT in China, so CNN International in Atlanta. All right? And not to mention Russia and other countries. They all interview us. All right? Yung mga fake dyan na experts, yung mga fake dyan na pa-expert dyan, yan mga yan, never na-interview ng mga legit yan. At barely na-interview ng mga, bati yung mga China and Russia na top level. I mean, I had interview inside CGTN in Beijing itself, right? The same way I have interviews in studios in CNBC and other major studios all around the world. Okay. Anyway, this is not about me. This is about, let's be very clear. All of this thing I'm saying is that kaya natin yan. Kaya natin yan. Because I remember very well, not long ago, people will say, Richard, medyo highfalutin, high level ka, blah, blah, blah. First of all, never underestimate my ability to communicate at multiple levels. Kahit baluktot yung Tagalog natin, although, mas kahit ko Ilocano. But anyway, the second thing is never underestimate the Filipino people. Never underestimate the Filipino people's appreciation for quality content, right? That's very important thing. It's a big insult to our people to say hanggang dyan lang pwedeng gawin. Yung hanggang patawa lang, hanggang mga marites lang, hanggang yung mga bardagulan, mga kabobohan na nakita natin dun sa mga ibang vloggers and all. Yes, it sells. It has a lot of views and all of that. But hindi tayo desperate for views. We also do 1 million views or something at least on YouTube. We do well, right? Thank God. No, it's not crazy level and all of that, but we do well. Not to mention, we pay our dues to the state, right? All of that. So there is a market for it and there's an interest in it. Yun lang, patience lang. Kaya medyo na-touch ako ng konti kasi yung isang mentor natin, nung sumulat siya ng recommendation for something, he quoted Socrates, no? And superhero ko talaga si Socrates because kung titingnan mo si Socrates, he always said, truth in itself is not the most attractive thing. That's why you have to seduce people in the truth. You have to make high, not high level, but deep, proper critical thinking palatable, interesting, exciting, funny even, kantsawan. At yun po yung ginagawa natin dito is we're trying to make reasonable critical thinking discussion as relatable as possible. Yun lang naman ginagawa natin mga kameta. Sometimes successful, sometimes very successful, sometimes not so successful, sometimes konti lang views. Okay lang yan. The thing is, you have to be committed. And there are many times, mga kameta, na there are times na nag-vlog tayo 1 million views. There are times na nag-vlog tayo barely 10,000 views or even 5,000 views. Pero okay lang sa akin, kahit nakita ko mga konti lang tao na nanonood, etc. I don't get discouraged because I know we're doing something right. And I know itong mga contents na ginagawa natin, down the road, pwede natin balikan. Down the road, we can reshare. Down the road, we can make a short out of it. Or at the very least, we're learning how to communicate with people in the best way possible. And alam ko, every time I go on live, dito sa Facebook, sa YouTube, we find new friends, mga bagong kaibigan, bagong mga supporters, in as much as we're extremely grateful, mga kameta, dun sa mga supporters natin from back in the day. You can also see, dun sa mga meta natin, walang makeup, nakikita nila may eye bags, pagod, etc. So, we're authentic. We're legit. No notes, no script, no makeup. Now, hindi ko nakasalanan kaya I want to make sure na I look decent. But beyond that, no production. This is authentic. This is authentic. Because mga kameta, ito, just to be clear about this, maraming mayaman dyan, artista, celebrities, whatever, anak mayaman, they can just hire a production team and make a super nice one and all of that. It's easy. If it's your dad's money or your whatever's money, and minsan di natin alam saan galing. But in my case, I work hard, very hard, for whatever penny I earn. So I don't just throw it on production, whatever, unless I'm sure na kailangan yan, and unless I'm sure that it stays true dun sa content at spirit ng what we're trying to transmit. Alright? So after a year or two of very hard work, I think na-meet natin yung konting threshold dito. And thank you sa mga sumusuporta sa atin in whichever way of been supporting us. Prayers, your comments, yung pushback niyo sa mga trolls. Kawawang-kawawa yung mga trolls sa page natin. Durog sila sa atin, di ba? Sa Twitter, akong bahala. Durog sila lahat sa akin, one-man team. Pero dito sa Facebook, mga ganun. Tsaka, kawawa yung mga trolls sa atin. Sa YouTube nga, wala. Durog ka pag mag-criticize ka. Now, okay, let me be very clear. I am absolutely okay with constructive criticism. And if you notice, over time, I make adjustments and all of that because some criticisms are valid. Kahit hindi ko aminin, back in my mind, like, parang actually may point siya, or nga, na medyo kachipang yung ginawa natin, or nga, masyado tayong self-indulgence. So, okay, I adjust, diba? Pero yung mga bastusan and all of that, there's no room for that. So, kung wala akong time to delete you or etc., bahala na sa inyo yung mga followers natin and supporters natin. So, we appreciate that. Of course, some of you are even more generous supporting us in so many ways. So, yan po ang nagbigay ng lakas sa atin para tuloy. Kahit ganyan, kita niyo, medyo pagod talaga. This is Singapore, so we're gonna work until tonight, right? So tuloy-tuloy yung mga meetings namin. After this, we're gonna have meetings, a conversation dun sa mga counterparts natin, mga expert from all around the region, and then hopefully, God willing, kung okay pa ako at saka si Ronald Llamas, 10 p.m. balikan natin ito. Now, having said all of that, I have to leave now in a few minutes. Of course, I'm watching the situation that is happening right now dito sa West Philippines, mga kameta. At medyo nakakabahala siya. Actually, kanina pinag-usapan ng mabuti itong kaso ng Pilipinas. And I'll tell you what, marami sa mga eksperto all around the world, lalo yung mga galing sa mga democracies like Europe, like etc. Sobrang proud na proud sila sa Pilipinas. Sobrang proud na proud sila sa mga ginagawa natin. Sobrang proud na proud sila sa yung ating determination and all of that. Now, obviously, I'm not against diplomacy. Obviously, I'm not against dealing with China. I have nothing against China. In fact, I love Chinese culture, civilization, sometimes some of their food. I really like it. And I had fantastic time in, Chinese-influenced countries from Taiwan to Singapore and others. And, I have Chinoy friends. Yung una natin, Chinay. Oh, okay. Yung mga, mamaya na hugot line, okay? No, you get what I'm saying. Mali yun. Okay, mamaya. Okay. Ito. So actually, a part of me is saying, anong Goldilocks approach natin? No? Goldilocks meaning not too hot, not too cold. So it's not about being pro-China or anti-China. It's about finding the best way to deal with China. And nung sa isang discussion natin the other day, diba, pinag-usapan natin itong hedging strategy, guys. Diba? I even gave you some sources, some links for you guys to check it on your own. Ayan, may mga bobo dyan na comment na hindi nila appreciate. Di ko na problema yan. Pero karamihan ng mga comment, they're very appreciative. So thank you very much. Salamat. Because you guys also have to support us para maengganyo din kami, di ba? I mean, we do these things in academic context, in policy think tank context, but we want to get the message out because, you want more and more people to learn from these basic concepts para may proper framework of analysis sila, di ba? Now, having said all of that, mga kameta, of course, I'm watching also what's happening on the ground. Ayaw natin ng giyera. But just to be clear, alright? Ang mga duwag, ay mga totoong duwag, yung mga nagsasabi, ay, wag na natin depensahan yung sarili nating interest at sovereign rights dahil magkakagyera. Yung ganyan na bobo na mag-isip, yung mga ganon. And then yung mga tipong worse than that, aatakin mo pa yung mga patriots na lumalaban para sa ating bansa. Now, just because you're fighting for your right doesn't mean you want war. That's a very bobo way of looking at things, right? You need to do the minimum. There has to be the minimum. To fight for your rights, you have to fight for your rights to... Okay, you get what I'm saying? You have to have minimum. But, while you're fighting for your basic rights and sovereign rights, dapat, mga kameta, you have to be absolutely clear that communication channels should remain open. At yun yung sinasabi kong hedging eh. You have engagement, you have deterrence. You combine that. But the exact combination of deterrence and engagement, uh, it's hard to pinpoint. It depends on circumstances. It depends on time, and it's game theory. So hopefully down the road we can do also lectures on game theory para ma-appreciate nyo. You see, it's not like hindi naman nakatunga ngayong kabila and then waiting for my punch. It's like in boxing, di ba? Before I punch you, you're already gonna make a reaction. So you cannot say, oh, I'm gonna punch him there and I'm gonna punch him there. It doesn't work that way. The moment I punch you, first naka-move ka na kagad. So my second punch has to have a different angle. So yung mga kameta natin na martial arts or boxing, you'll get what I'm saying. So game theory is kind of similar to that. In a game theory situation, you're not gonna say, I'm gonna do X, Y, and Z or A, B, C to the person. By the time you do the A, the other person is all gonna counter-react. And the person's counter-reaction is not only to what you do, but also to the expectation of what you were supposed to do. And then that creates its own path dependency. Or algorithmically, it creates patterns of interaction. So, ganun po, game theory. So, yun ang perspective natin so, you cannot say, ito lang gawin natin at ito mangyari sa China. No, because what China is doing depends also on what we're doing, but it also depends on mutual perceptions, but it also depends on what China thinks about what US will do and other countries will do, and also what we think other countries will do. So, there are many moving parts. Kaya, multi-causal, multivariant / multivariable analysis. Yun po yung ginagawa natin. Ginagawa natin yun sa politics, ginagawa natin sa geopolitics. So that's why it's very important to constantly see what's happening on the ground. Now, mga kamay, ito yung nakakatakot na nangyari ngayon. So, wait lang. Baka ma-copyright tayo. So, ito yung pinost natin kanina, mga kameta. Ito yung situation. Kitang-kita nyo na ito yung mga barko ng China. Mga fishing, kunyari sila, fishing vessel sila, na ang dami nilang pinark dyan. But we know they're not fishing vessels. We know that they're fake civilians, but they're actually militia forces. And one of them is most likely behind dun sa Recto Bank, Reed Bank incident. So, ginagamit ng China itong mga yan para sabihin, peaceful kami, wala kaming ginawa. Parang clearly, very intimidating yung ginawa nila dito, mga kameta. Talagang they put tens, 100, 200, ang dami niya nilagay dyan, mga kameta, to show to us na, gusto niya kami challenge, bahala kayo dyan. But, that's the point, mga kameta. You have to always distinguish between intimidation tactics and the actual potential for war, right? So, kung ututo ka, di ba, magpa-intimidate ka kagad, good luck sa'yo. Walang mangyari sa'yo. At the same time, kung reckless ka, and you're just gonna ignore all signals of potential confrontation, delikado rin yan. Kaya ang very, very important to have the proper intelligence, proper assessment, but as I always say, keep the communication channels open. Because siguro yung China gusto lang magpakitang gilas, mag-flex ng muscle, but perhaps they really don't want the confrontation. But you won't know that unless you're communicating with them. And if God forbid some accident happens, it's very important that you have that communication channel to de-escalate the situation and make sure it doesn't get out of control. Because tayo may drone and camera, sila rin ngayon may drone and camera. So pakitang gilas yan. So palaing yan, as we say in Ilocano. And that creates a very dangerous, explosive, and very emotionally charged situation, right? So that's why we're watching very carefully what's happening here. But so far, advice ko is medyo kabado ko ng konti. Pero dapat di tayo ututo at hindi tayo magpa-intimidate. And then let me end this vlog on this note. I always tell this to my Chinese friends that I always saw China as far more rational, far more reasonable and sophisticated than other authoritarian superpowers, including the one that invaded just Ukraine like that. China has so much to lose because they're gaining so much from globalization and good relations with their neighboring countries. So that is why I think more than 9 out of 10 times, 90+% of the time, it's just intimidation tactics and psychological warfare. Kaya hindi tayo dapat magpauto. Nevertheless, there's always that 1% chance that this could be more than just psychological games. Kaya I hope behind the scenes, we are preparing for contingencies. And behind the scenes, we're making sure na yung mga aliado natin, they're also sending clear signal to China na don't do anything funny or anything crazy, right? And as I said, there are 3 ticking time bombs in the West Philippine Sea. I'm gonna post shorts and all about it based on some lectures and discussion natin previously. Ticking time bomb. Ito na, decidido na tayo sa Pilipinas para i-fortify yung presence natin sa Second Tamashol. It's possible China will intervene aggressively in that, and that could create a very dangerous spiral. Sabi ko nga dun sa Reed Bank, gusto natin mag-develop ng resources natin dyan. At some point, we might do it unilaterally. Medyo delikado din yan. Pwede mag-respond ng China. But we have no choice. We have to defend our sovereign rights. Alam nga, maghintay lang tayo at magpa-intimidate tayo. So that's why foreign policy is not easy. That's why it's very, very hard. And that's why whoever is the Filipino president, I wish the best. for that person, because if the president gets it wrong, lagot tayong lahat. Hindi lang Pilipinas and China, buong region affected. Kaya pag abroad tayo, including ASEAN, parati akong kinakausap. Richard, ano bang ginagawa? Kanina may kausap din ako ng mga Singaporean professors and all. Richard, what is your take on this? Is this a tactical thing? Is this a strategic thing? So they're really concerned. And yun nga, wag tayong magpa-intimidate, pero wag lang tayong bara-bara. Alright? Let's be very, very clear about this. I would also want to add this. I find it quite interesting. Let me be very clear about it. I find it quite interesting. Sige, ayusin natin to para gamitin natin pang shorts. Practical lang talaga, no? Ito. Okay, ito. Wait lang. Magulo ba sa likod? Hindi. Ay, bakit andun yung ano? Ito. Ayusin. Okay, ito. Ito na talaga, low budget production. Pilitin na natin. Habang may free lighting pa tayo. Okay, ito. Mga kameta, pang shorts na yan. Insan! Imekos natin yan. Okay, ganito. Wait, nasaan na tayo? Ano sasabihin ko? Ayun na, wala na sa baon na. Ito. Dun sa mga empresaryos ni tatay, no, dun sa mga supporters ng former administration, ito lang sasabihin ko. I'm not very sure about your moral ascendancy or even intellectual ayusin natin yan. Ayusin natin. I didn't say capacity. I want to say something as capital, something like that. Okay, ito. Dun sa mga... Okay. Ito. Ulitin natin yan. 1, 2, 3. Showtime. 1, 2, talagang live na. Wala talaga. Pag low budget, ganun. Sabay-sabay yan na lahat. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Showtime. Action. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Take 2. Okay. Alright. Now, let me be very clear dun sa mga nagle-lecture sa kasalukuyan na administration or nagle-lecture sa taong bayan ukol sa issue ng West Philippine Sea. In particular, I'm talking about the impresarios of the former President Duterte and those who supported his brand of essentially pro-China foreign policy or, very servile, if not fully subservient policy towards China. Let me be very clear about these people. Very questionable kung meron kayong any moral ascendancy and very questionable kung meron kayong enough intellectual capital to make that argument, because for 6 full years at least, Tatay Digong was super nice to China. He didn't assert the arbitration award. He threatened our alliance with the United States on multiple occasions. He did not allow EDCA to be fully implemented. He threatened the Visiting Forces Agreement. He even threatened earlier on to kick out Americans altogether and ally with China and Russia against the world and all of that kind of drama. And he was promised 24 billion pesos in investments and all. And what did we get in those 6 years? In exchange for everything that Tatay Digong did for them, right? Well, aside from the Pogo investments and all, what did we get? Where's the Mindanao Railway Project? Where's the Clark High-Speed Railway Project? I mean, name me a single big ticket. Big ticket, hindi yung mga kinulayan lang at ginanon lang yung isang bridge dyan, tapos puro mga galing din sa kanila yung mga workers and contractors na sila lang kumita. Hindi yung ganun na. I'm talking about real big ticket infrastructure projects. Right? Like what we see in Bandung, Jakarta, although very delayed and all, but something along those lines. Big ticket infrastructure project. Show me. None. Zero. Zilch. Nada. Right? So that was pledge trap. Kaya sabi ko mali yung opposition at saka yung mga dilawan na sinasabi magkaka-debt trap. Debt trap presupposes, I've been saying this since 2018, debt trap presupposes that investments will come in but under very questionable terms. But I always said it's just pledge trap. It's just pledges. Empty pledges that are meant to soften the Philippines' position on the South China Sea, on its alliance with the United States, among others. But in exchange for really nothing much, right? Now, we can have a long discussion kung sino talaga may kasalanan din, but the reality is that all of those billions of supposed investment are more pledge trap than debt trap. Okay? Now, if you look at the West Philippine Sea, lumala din yung situation. Kung titignan mo yung militarizasyon ng mga fake islands na ginawa ng China sa Kalayaan Group of Islands, yung mga iba na dapat atin or kiniklaim natin, lumala yung mga yan. In fact, na-consolidate yung militarization ng China. Panahon ni Digong yan. So, every evidence suggests that the Digong way of going like that to China and hoping they'll be nice to us, in fact, as Duterte put it, be meek and humble and you'll get mercy from China, that thesis has been completely disproven. And let's not forget, it was under Digong that the Reed Bank Recto-Bank incident happened, na muntik na matay yung mga more than a dozen Filipino, yung Gemver incident. Nangyari din sa mga iba't ibang area ng Kalayaan Group of Finance. Inarmada tayo ng mga militia nila. So it's absolutely clear that the Digong way of dealing with China, it just doesn't work. Zero concessions from China on any important issue. Zero big-ticket infrastructure projects. Therefore, yung mga invested sa ganyan policy na may zero, right? Zero real dividends for the Philippines have zero moral ascendancy and arguably zero intellectual capital, right? To lecture us on what to do moving forward. Now, having said that, I am still for engagement with China. I'm still for exploring the best possible compromise there, but we have to be clear with our red lines. And we have to be clear that as much as we welcome high quality investments from China, that should not come at the expense of our sovereign rights in the West Philippine Sea. And at the end of the day, any investments that comes in, it has to be mutually beneficial. And it has to rely also on the Filipino technology, or at least on Filipino labor. It has to hire Filipino workers. And it has to be high quality, sustainable, environmentally friendly infrastructure projects. Now, as long as we can keep those basics clear in our engagement with China, I have no problem whatsoever dealing with them. But those red lines have to be clear. And once those red lines have became clear, then I think we can have a very good relationship with China. Because guess what? The country I am right now, Singapore has a fantastic relationship with China. Well, they don't have territorial disputes, but every time they had a problem, they stood their ground. Indonesia, nung binuli sila ng China sa North Natuna Sea, nagpadala sila ng mga F-16 fighters, bumunta dyan si Jokowi, nagpadala sila ng warships, they stood their ground, and now, Indonesia and China, fantastic relationship. In fact, China just finished yung Bandung project nila, yung Bandung-Jakarta high-speed railway project nila. So I can go on and on with many examples. Australia, for instance, for many years, ang laki ng problema nila with China. And China was angry at them for introducing, counter-influence operations kind of legislations, for restricting Chinese investments in their critical infrastructure, for calling for independent investigation in the source of origins of COVID-19. But China kept on, threatening them. They said they will impose sanctions. And in the end, Australia stood its ground, and now you have Australian Prime Minister Albanese going to China, and everything went more or less well. So that's the point. If you stand your ground, hindi ka magpa-intimidate, hindi ka matuto, katulad nung isa, right? You will get their grudging respect. And then you can negotiate for a good, proper compromise dyan sa West Philippine Sea. But compromise doesn't mean peace under conditions of subjugation. It has to be a just peace. And it has to be a peace and a compromise that is in accordance dun sa ating saligang batas and prevailing modern international law, the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. And we already have a ruling on that. On that note, thank you very much. Mabuhay ang Pilipinas, and salamat. Maraming salamat sa inyong suporta, making us the number one political podcast in the Philippines and among top 100 political podcasts in many in number of other countries, including here in Singapore. So we hope to push for number one in all podcasts, hopefully sa Pilipinas one day. Medyo siguro ambisyoso yan. But if we can make it to at least top 10 or 20 all podcasts, all categories, then, that will be quite an achievement. And hopefully we can be at least among the top 10 podcasts in Asia, if not in the world, right? So thank you so much for your continued support. God bless, and mabuhay ang Pilipinas. Talk to you soon. With R and Ara. Ayan. Okay. Cut! Tapos na. Pasensya na, ginagamit ko na ito for free, free shorts na, okay? Insan, i-mekos mo na yan. Gawin mo ng shorts yan, alright? Talk to you soon. God bless. Talk to you soon, guys. I-upload ko yung isa. Wala naman actually image or anything like that, pero pasensya rin ko yung nakagayan ako. Alright? Tama na yung Andrew Tate na, ibang klase naman. Grabe naman, mas gwapo naman tayo sa mga yan, mga walang yan, alright? Okay, pero ano tayo dyan, mga kamets. Alright, on that note, thank you very much. God bless and talk to you soon.